In this video, I'm gonna walk you through a step-by-step process for filming and recording a live acoustic worship session. Maybe you're wanting to capture an original worship song or a cover of a worship song to share with your local church congregation or the world here on YouTube. If that's the case for you, keep watching this video because I'm going to share my list of recommended gear and software to help you achieve a professional look and sound. I'm also going to cover some budget-friendly alternatives so you don't have to break the bank with this production. And finally, I'm going to be sharing with you my strategy for approaching this project so you can get it done with confidence and ease. Coming up. My name is Jake Goslin. I'm the creator of ChurchFront.com, helping you lead gospel-centered and tech-savvy worship. If you haven't already, make sure you subscribe to the channel so you don't miss out on any of our latest content to help you grow yourself and grow your worship ministry. And this video is brought to you by Worship Leader School, where you're going to find all the essential training, advice, and support you need to plan and lead worship. So click the link below to learn more, and I hope to see you inside Worship Leader School soon. I recently had the opportunity to visit Inland Hills Church to capture a recording of a new worship song called Making Room by Andrea Hamilton and her worship team there at Inland Hills. If you haven't heard the song or the powerful story behind it, I'm going to leave a link in the description as well as I'll link it here on the video so you can actually see the final product of what I'm going to walk you through here in this video. As I was setting up for this project, I realized that this may be something that intrigues you guys to see what goes on behind the scenes to capture a recording like this. Because I know a lot of you maybe write your own worship songs or you want to make your own covers of worship songs that you can share with your local church congregation, or maybe you just want to record songs, put them on YouTube, and be the next Shawn Mendes. Either way, what I'm going to share in this video is going to be helpful for you. First, I want to give you a big picture perspective on what needs to happen. I've boiled this process down to 7 steps. Step 1, it's very simple and obvious, but make sure you learn the song, whether it's yourself or the actual talent or musicians playing. Make sure everybody knows their part, all the lyrics and chords are memorized, because if you're going to share this with the world, nobody really wants to watch a video of you reading off of a chord chart. Plus, if you learn and memorize everything, the whole process is going to go so much more smoothly because you only have to do a few takes. Step 2, acquire all the gear and software you're going to need to make this production process possible. You don't want to show up to the day of the shoot and be missing something. So I'm going to walk you through in greater detail in a few moments what all that gear and software is going to be, but make sure that you actually get it all before you arrive at your shoot day. Step number 3, find a location for the shoot. If you're going to shoot it at your church, I highly recommend finding a spot with lots of natural light. It's going to make the lighting process much easier, and find a spot that doesn't have crazy acoustics with a lot of reverb. You want it to be a relatively more dead space that you're recording in so you can have more control of the sound in post-production. Step number 4, schedule the shoot and arrange for all of the right and necessary people to be there. So obviously your band members, but then you may need an extra hand when it comes to running cameras and audio. Even if you're just recording one song, I'd recommend allotting 2 full hours of time for setup, recording, and teardown. Step number 5, record the song. Hopefully this is easy at this point because you have all the pieces and people together to make it possible. Step number 6 is post-production. This is when you edit down your mix so the audio sounds great, and then you can also create your multicam edit for the music video portion of it. And you put your master mix together with that multicam edit, and it's gonna look and sound great. Step number 7, share your song with the world. So you can upload it to YouTube, you can share it on Facebook. Be sensitive to copyright issues. I know that YouTube makes it fairly easy and legal to be able to share covers, but if you're ever unsure, consult with legal counsel. If you're writing original songs, then you don't really have to worry about any of those copyright issues, but be aware of those. I'm not going to cover any details about that here, but it's good for you to know before you start distributing stuff that's copyrighted. You could run into some issues there. Now I'm going to break down for you in great detail how we went about producing the video for the song Making Room. We scheduled this video shoot for a Tuesday morning, and we decided to do it in the main lobby, in the entryway of their worship center at Inland Hills Church. There's lots of natural light, and there was going to be no traffic going through that room at the time. The only downside about this space was that it was a bit more reverberant than what I would have preferred. As far as the musicianship side of this production, it was really simple. There's 3 musicians. We had Andrea, lead vocalist, and on keys. Then we had John, who is a backup vocalist and on acoustic guitar. And then we had Rolando, who was on a cajon. One key element that made this so much easier is that these musicians knew their stuff. They had this song memorized, lyrics and chords, so it went so smoothly. And I want to emphasize, don't even bother trying to record songs if the musicians don't know the songs yet. Now I want to unpack for you all the gear and software we used in this setup. And gear and software for this production can be broken into 3 parts: audio, video, and lighting. First, let's talk about audio. We use my MacBook Pro and Logic Pro X to capture the multi-track recording of this session. You can use any digital audio workstation. The key is making sure it can capture multiple tracks of audio at one time. The reason you want this is so that you have lots of control in post-production. You have all the channels tracked separately so you can control all those levels and make it sound nice and professional. Some budget-friendly, even free digital audio workstations include GarageBand, which runs on Mac, or Audacity that runs on a PC. You can even record a multi-track session to an iPad so long as you have the right audio interface that has multiple inputs and it's compatible with iOS. Some of my favorite digital audio workstations include Ableton Live, which many of you know, and Pro Tools. But for this setting, I just decided I wanted to use Logic Pro X. When it comes to recording things and kind of just whipping out my computer and doing a multi-track recording, Logic tends to be my go-to piece of software for that. Once you have your computer and recording software in place, the next piece of gear you need is an audio interface. The audio interface is important for capturing multiple channels of audio and sending that audio into different tracks on your DAW. Lately, I've been getting really great results with some Behringer audio interfaces. For this video shoot, we actually used 2 interfaces. We used the Behringer UMC 404 HD and the UMC 22. We needed the ability to capture 5 channels of audio. We had 2 vocal mics, 2 channels, a piano, acoustic guitar, and cajon, so that makes 5 total. The problem is my largest Behringer interface only has 4 channels, so I was short 1 channel. So what I did is I combined my 4-channel audio interface with my 2-channel audio interface to have 6 channels available. So we had plenty of inputs to record this session. And you can do this on a Mac really easily. All you have to do is go to the Audio MIDI Setup app on your Mac and then make sure that both interfaces are plugged into your Mac via USB, and then click the little plus icon and you add an aggregate device. So it aggregates 2 devices together and it treats them like one device. So then when you go into Logic or whatever DAW you're using, you can actually pull up that aggregate device and you'll see you have 6 available inputs. So that's a cool little quick tip. If you don't want to lug around a large audio interface, I didn't because I was flying to and from California for this project, you can just grab 2 smaller interfaces and put them together. So then in Logic Pro X, I went to Preferences, I went to Audio, and I selected my aggregate device for my input interface. And then for the output device, I just selected the external headphones output on my MacBook Pro, and I just used my All-Clear RSM quad drivers to monitor the session. Next, within Logic Pro X, I created 5 audio tracks. I labeled the tracks, I made sure that the input for each of those tracks lined up to the proper input on the audio interface. Then I went through and enabled all the tracks so they were ready to record audio. I set the gain for all the vocals and instruments, making sure the signal was strong enough but not too strong so that it would clip. And we were ready to go in terms of our interface and software setup. Next, I want to talk about how we got the signal though from the actual vocals and the instruments into the interface. So let's talk about microphones and some other connections we had going on here. First, the vocal microphones. We use 2 Shure SM7B microphones. These microphones work phenomenally for capturing vocals, whether you're recording a podcast or if you're recording singing vocals. And the reason why these mics are so great is that they're dynamic microphones, so they can withstand kind of high volume and high pressure levels, which are common in a live music environment. And they have a really great ability to isolate the sound of the vocals from the noise in the rest of the room. They have a cardioid pickup pattern, so they reject sound from behind the microphone. So this is really key when you're capturing a live recording if you want to have lots of control over the different vocals in post. I also use these microphones for the Churchfront podcast when I was interviewing Andrea this day because I want to be cool like Joe Rogan. The one downside about this microphone is it's pretty expensive. It's $400 a piece for these microphones. So if you want a budget-friendly option, I would recommend trying the Shure SM57 microphone. Traditionally, the SM57 is just great for miking instruments, but it also works great for vocals because it's very similar to this microphone in a lot of ways. It doesn't sound as full and beefy as this microphone does, but it still sounds crystal clear, and you have that great isolation for recording in a live environment. I would just recommend picking up some sort of pop filter that you can put on that microphone, because without it, you hear lots of those puh and puh and all that stuff. You could also use a Shure SM58, which is a very classic vocal microphone, or a Shure Beta 58 microphone. Both of those sound great in a live environment. I would actually, though, prefer, if I'm recording something for post and want lots of control, either the 57 or one of these guys if the budget allows. And speaking of the SM57, we did use that mic for the Cajon. We put it on a short little boom stand, stuck the mic inside the hole in the back of the Cajon, and we're good to go. For any guitars or piano you are plugging into your audio interface, you have two options. If your cable length is less than 20 feet, then you can just plug your instrument cable straight into the audio interface. But if you're running a longer length, you're going to want to use a direct box to convert that unbalanced signal from the instrument to a balanced signal into the audio interface. And that covers our entire audio setup for this project. Now, let's talk about video. In this video shoot, we used 3 Panasonic GH5s to capture the high quality video that you see. The GH5 is arguably one of the best compact professional cameras in its price range. It's got high quality 4K video up to 60 frames a second, and it has amazing in-body stabilization. That was key for this video shoot because I actually freehanded my camera, and I was able to do it in a way that has some natural movement to it, but it wasn't super jittery and shaky. One of the GH5s was sitting on a tripod, and it had a 4.2 millimeter f1.2 lens, and it was focusing on Andrea the whole time. So it was kind of a safe stationary shot, wasn't going to go anywhere, and it was just on our lead vocalist for this song. Like I already mentioned, I was freehanding one of the GH5s, and it had a 25 millimeter lens. These are all micro four thirds lenses for you camera geeks out there. So for a full frame equivalent, just multiply that number by about 2 and you get a 50 millimeter lens. So 25 millimeters is a great focal length if you just want a good walk around lens in a micro four thirds ecosystem. And then finally, my friend Spencer was running the other GH5, which also had a 25 millimeter lens f1.4, and he had that camera set up on a gimbal. It was a stabilizer gimbal that he could move around with one hand, so he was able to move around a bit more and have even more stability that way. We made sure that all 3 cameras had the same color profile, the natural profile you'll find on these GH5s, and we made sure the cards had plenty of space for them for us to record multiple takes of a song. Let's talk about more budget-friendly camera options, because all 3 cameras with all 3 lenses, this whole setup was over $8,000, and I've acquired this gear over multiple years of having my own video production business, so chances are you're not in a place where you can just drop $8,000 for all of this gear. But here are a couple solutions for you. One, if you want to use a high-end camera like the GH5, you can actually rent this camera and the lenses from websites like borrowedlenses.com. Or you can just purchase a more budget-friendly camera. I highly recommend the Canon M50. It's a great little compact mirrorless camera. Or if you have really great lighting in whatever room you're in, you can actually use the camera on your smartphone. Our smartphone cameras in the video capabilities getting better and better every single year. You still need a fair amount of light for it to really look good in post, but yeah, just use your smartphone if you don't have any other cameras. Now let's move on to the third piece of gear, and that is lighting. I've already mentioned I prefer natural lighting. That's why we selected the spot we did to record this, and it was an overcast day in Chino, California where we were, so we had some nice soft light coming through the windows, and it looked great. And then we also used some budget-friendly LED panels that you can find on Amazon, and we kind of surrounded the musicians with these panels. We just wanted to fill in the light on their faces a little bit more, and then also have a bit of a hair light behind them to kind of create some separation between them and the background. I think these LED panels were the least necessary of all the gear we were using for this setup. Just find a spot with great natural light. So that's all of the audio, video, and lighting gear we used to capture this shoot. So when everyone and everything was in place, I went over to Logic Pro X and I just hit the main record button, made sure all of my tracks were recording there in the timeline, and audio was rolling, and it was good to go. Next, we hit record on all 3 of our cameras, and it was really important to just let the cameras roll throughout the whole song. It makes it much easier to sync up the angles and make your multicam edit in post. And then all we had to do is tell the band to play, and they played the song and we captured it. And I always recommend, leaving like 5 to 10 seconds of just silent dead space, both at the beginning and at the end of the song, just so in post it's easy for you to fade in and fade out, and you don't have to worry about people saying something, before or afterwards, or making a noise on their instrument. And I also recommend that your camera operators know the song, know how the song is going to go, know where the attention should be focused on what musician or what instrument at different parts, and maybe even intentionally move the camera in a way that goes along with the energy of the song at that point. Andrea and her team did not use a click track for this recording, so we could only really do it in one take. Unfortunately, like I said, they knew the song and they did a phenomenal job. So I think we ended up doing 3 takes of the song, which only took about 15 or 20 minutes to get through that. And by the 3rd take, we were all really happy. The next step after we tear down all the gear, went and grabbed lunch, and then I flew home, the next step was to mix down this session. So I opened up the multi-track session in Logic Pro, and I applied some Waves plugins like gain, like compression, noise gates, EQ, and then even a little bit of reverb. Overall, the signal processing for the session was very light. I wanted it to have that raw acoustic sound to it. And this secret can be kept between the 2 of us. I added a little bit of church front pads underneath the session. Once I had the final mix and it sounded great, I bounced the audio out of Logic Pro X and I stored it on my hard drive, and it was ready to be combined with our video. Next, I used Final Cut Pro X to accomplish all the video post-production work. I created a new library, I imported the 3 video clips for this session and the 1 master mix audio clip that we just bounced from Logic Pro. Then I selected all 4 of those pieces of media, and you can easily sync together video and audio in Final Cut Pro to get a multicam clip, which allows you to then play back that video and then just select as you're playing through the timeline. I use my keyboard commands to do it, like which angles I want, 1, 2, or 3. So I probably spent about 15 minutes just playing through the song and selecting the best angles for different parts of the song. I wanted to give this video a more cinematic look, or make it look more like what you would see at the movies. So I wanted to have that wide aspect ratio, so I applied the letterbox effect in Final Cut Pro. Once I had the letterbox effect applied to the project, I had to go through and reframe some of the video clips because some of them were looking like they were shot too low or too high. So that was really easy to do. Took me a few minutes to fix some of those issues. Once the video was cut, letterboxed, and also framed properly, then I moved on to color correction. Color correction, when done well, makes it look more professional, maybe even a little bit more cinematic. So I use Film Convert Pro. It basically turns the color of the video into something that would look like using old school film and gives it more contrast and some grain. I did some minor color correction to the individual clips just to make sure they all matched each other well. Once I was done color correction, I went to the beginning of the video. I added in a simple title, and it just says Making Room, Inland Hills Church, so people who watch the song know what the song is and who it's by. When we recorded the video, I purposely shot the first few seconds out of focus so that I could put a title over it and you could read the text well, and then I bring it back into focus on Andrea when she's about to sing. After all that post-production work with audio and video and bringing those 2 things together, we're finally done. The song is ready for exporting and sharing. And that, ladies and gentlemen, is how you go about producing your own live acoustic worship session. Of course, you can do this for any song out there, even if you're not a worship leader, but I know a lot of you write worship songs or you lead worship songs all the time, and there may come a time where you want to capture it with your team. It's a fun project to work on with your friends and share that with your church congregation and the world. And hopefully after watching this video, you have so much more clarity on how to move forward with this process, and it's going to look great, sound great, and have very few headaches or none at all along the way. I'm going to link all of the gear and software I mentioned in this video down below in the description. And make sure you go watch the final product of this process by checking out that music video, Making Room, and the song story that comes along with it. Super powerful. I was so excited to work on this project with Andrea and her team, and I really hope it's impactful and inspiring for you. If you are a worship leader wanting to take your ministry and your own growth and development to the next level, then check out worshipleaderschool.com. We've got a complete online course library there to walk you through lots of practical trainings on worship ministry, whether it's pastoral aspects of worship ministry like speaking or praying in worship, or maybe it's really technical things like using Ableton Live to run a click and tracks and automate lyrics and lighting in worship. There's so much in Worship Leader School. It continues to grow every month. We have a dedicated community of students who are part of Worship Leader School that you can connect with, and you can even receive real-time help from me during one of our weekly office hours sessions. So go to worshipleaderschool.com to learn more. Thanks so much for watching. If you found this video helpful, hit that thumbs up button and share it with your friends in ministry. You can check out some related videos right over here, and don't forget to subscribe to the Churchfront channel so you can continue to receive all of our latest content to help you grow yourself and grow your church.